And this with that where the domain is resolving to an IP address, then obviously he can access the application. Always a very good practice here is providing providing a domain with the certificate, especially HTTPS protocol. You should give this one to the customer always. If your client is also telling you we don't require this HTTPS, we need just a HTTP protocol. You just suggest them. See, we need to have the HTTPS to have the encryption during transition. We need this one. Otherwise, the man in the middle can see the transaction data. Definitely, it will cause an issue for you from security point. So always the best recommendation is to keep HTTPS with the domain name. That's the best recommendation. All right, team. I'm just taking this out. For example, when you provide this one to the customer, if you could manage this is resolving to a IP address of this virtual machine, for example, because you just thought initially, I have only one VM where my application is being deployed in this VM. I'm using that VM and my database is sitting here. Okay, fine. Now the thing is, this is really awesome. This is okay. But the problem with this one is all of a sudden, if you are keep getting traffic more and more, especially for this website, tntechsgate.com, obviously what exactly the action you need to take, your VM compute may not be enough to handle that one. Right. Your VM compute may not be enough because you just tested your applications for 1500 concurrent users. That's really doing good. But when you see the load is keep growing and you just have only one mission in special in one area, whatever the area you're just keeping. So this particular mission compute is not enough. That's where you just pick the scaling part, right? So where you are scaling up multiple missions so that you are serving your end customer. That is scalability. That is good. But the thing and the possibility here is in case whatever the VM you deployed your application, right? All of a sudden the VM stopped working or some issue raised on the VM. That could be anything. Whatever the agents are there already, Microsoft agents are there inside these VMs because you are taking Azure VMs, right? Always agent will be there already in this VM. For example, all of a sudden the agent is unable to make it up or something VM is not at all coming up, or some rack failure, or particularly wherever this VM is sitting in a specific zone, yesterday I just showed, right? I just showed away how exactly this, yeah. Wherever the data center, here, for example, our VM is sitting, let's take an example. Your VM is sitting in this particular data center. Okay, your VM is sitting in this particular data center. VM is sitting in this particular data center and this particular VM and this particular data center is not working at that particular moment, then obviously a VM also will start fail, right? So then if VM got start failed, obviously you cannot serve the public. You cannot serve the public. That's where the issue rises for you. So if you could maintain another VM, if you could maintain another VM in another zone or another data center or something like that, if you could maintain one more VM with the same application deployed in another data center or another zone or another region, whatever it is. Okay. If you could maintain the VM in another data center, of course you are maintaining the high availability across data centers. If you could maintain your VM across zones, I think we can call that one as you are maintaining high availability across zones. If you could maintain another VM on the region level, you are maintaining high availability across region team. So that's exactly the thing you need to keep in your mind. So based upon the requirement only, you need to pick this one. And obviously it will add some cost for you, right? Because you are proposing another VM in another data center or another zone and another region. So it's a replica. It's a replica. So obviously you need to pay for it. Okay, understand that. So the thing here is you need to maintain another VM, especially at your data center. So meaning that it's a data center high availability. No, you want to keep the same VM high availability on another zone or another data center or another region. All these cases, when you go for the on-premises, you need to maintain separate data center. Point number one, or you need to have the same infrastructure in another region. Again, it is coming to the same place where You need to maintain the separate team for that. Again, it's a costly solution. Again, the physical servers are needed. All these cases are again replicating, right? Same things are coming. So that's where exactly, especially to handle this kind of HA scenarios in the cloud environment is really easy. You don't need to do anything. While provisioning this particular VM itself, we'll just say, hey, I need high availability on the VM. That's all. Obviously, if you deploy an application here, automatically they will maintain another application replica in another zone. If you select zone redundancy, if you select only the data center redundancy, they will maintain another VM in another data center. If you select the regional availability, they will maintain the same VM in another region. So that's a common practice generally Azure Cloud Support will do. So due to that, all of a sudden, if your VM got failed, also doesn't matter for you because you have another VM which is running under another data center, a zone, or region. This is okay. But tell me one thing, Tim. If you are using this domain https tntechisguide.com, always it will result to this IP only, right? If all of a sudden this VM started failing, your TNT Techies Guide should resolve to this VM, right? There is another VM. Obviously, whatever the instance you have in the cloud environment, each and every instance has its own IP, correct? Own IP, that's an identification. How I'm calling you with a specific name or some ID. The same way in the environment also, in our cloud and not only environment, even on-premises also, whatever may be the environment, generally your instance that could be a service or that could be a virtual machine, that could be anything, has its own IP address. Okay, that's an identification. So if this is gone, your techisguide.com should resolve to this VM, correct? This it should resolve to this VM exactly. You need to make sure this one. How you can make sure it is resolved to this one? That's again, you need to go to the private DNS. Sorry, you need to go to the DNS zone. I don't think so. Yeah, if you understand the DNS zone at the moment, don't worry. And you need to go to this DNS zone wherever you hosted this one, and you need to give this IP address. So it's a manual effort, right? When something failed, you are going there, you are giving IP address. I'm talking about the cloud behavior on. But this is really not good, and no one will do this also. So that's where exactly we will use a load balancer. We will use a load balancer. That particular load balancer is the one exactly will help you to route or to balance the traffic between these two data centers or two zones or two regions. Okay, that's exactly the thing. And always your tntticketsgate.com will resort to the load balancer because load balancer has only one IP. It will resolve to this one. Doesn't matter whether this VM or this VM gone. The load balancer, all the default behavior of the load balancer. Default behavior of the load balancer is it will always check health of your target system, or we can call this one as a backend system. For this, it's a backend. For this, it's a front end. Okay. For the load balancer, it will check health of your backend virtual machines, and based upon that one only it will route the traffic. For example, if this VM gone because of some rack failure at the particular data center, load balancer will not send any traffic to this particular virtual machine. Instead, it will send the traffic to this another virtual machine. That's exactly the behavior of the load balancer. Okay, this is a common thing. Okay, that is the exactly the part which you should understand. Especially handling these kind of cases in cloud is very easy, and also we have some four types of load balancer in Azure cloud. Those are the front door traffic manager and the network load balancer and the load balancer, so application gateway. So these are all the four types of load balancer. We will see the use cases of each and everything in our projects. All right, team, so that's exactly the benefit when you're talking about the high availability. And if you go for the data security and recovery, okay, and especially when you go for the data security and recovery, even this one is also to maintain whatever the data is getting stored in our on premises, you need to make sure it's been properly secure, right? It's been properly secured and encrypted. So that's your responsibility to make sure your data is secured on the on premises. And also, so again, same case. So to maintain this particular thing, you need to have a proper team or the proper team members to just maintain this particular data security, especially on the databases. But when you go for the recovery point of view, all of a sudden, the database is which is sitting in this VM, right? As I told, right, DB is sitting in this VM. For example, let's take the same scenario. Okay, I'm just taking one database. Okay, I'm just considering a database. This database is sitting in this particular VM. Okay, and all of a sudden, this particular virtual machine stopped working due to some coolers issue or some rack failure or some router failure. Okay, this VM stopped working under the data set. Obviously, your DB also will not. Then you need to make sure your business is going smoothly, right? And you need to launch another virtual machine. You need to restore the database instance, whatever the last backup you consider. For example, if you consider a backup at the 5 minutes before, because this and all on premises, right? You need to set everything. 5 minutes before, if you consider your last backup, you need to restore that one to a new server. You need to restore that one to a new server, and you will ask your application, please connect to this particular part, right? If you are using a domain, again you need to change the domain is resolving to this particular virtual mission, right? That's the exact. And what are the things I'm talking about, especially on the domain thing, you don't worry on that, because it's too early for you to understand on that. But I'm just giving the heads up here itself. I started discussing so that I believe you can start sharing such kind of words and terminology will be easy for you going forward. Okay, don't worry on the domain resolving, how exactly it is resolving, how to create a new domain, how exactly you need to host the domain, how to create a record or CNAME records, all these types of records. These things we will discuss in detail. Okay, so don't worry on that. I'm just differentiating the differences between these two. That's the reason I'm just highlighting that line. All right, team. And the data recovery also, again, you need to make sure this particular part where that particular database lost backup, from the lost backup, you will restore to your new database and in that particular VM, right? So again, this is an effort where we need to keep from our team member, or you need to automate this one. So that is fine. You can use some script where you can, by using the script, you can take the backup and you can restore that one to a new database server. Again, you need to provide a connection to this one. This is exactly you are doing. See, this is a manual activity, though you are using some script, but you need to make some sort of connection, especially the app is connecting to the new database, a new VM, these things which you need to make sure. But in the cloud environment, if the same thing happens, what are the backup you took from the backup, only you restore to the new database, right? From the backup, you restore to the new database, right? When you are restoring, you no need to change any connection string. And whatever the VM you have, whatever the application you have, that one will still be connected with the same endpoint. So you no need to worry on these kind of small things also. No need of manual activity, especially if you are using one application is fine on premises. If you are using some 10 applications are connecting to the database. You need to modify the 10 applications connections at the configuration, right? But in case of the cloud, you no need to worry on such things. When you are restoring, you no need to change your address also. Your application will still be connected to your old address, but it's a new database. So that's exactly the advantage usually you will get when we are going for the cloud environment. I'll simulate this one for you during our coming classes. Okay, how exactly we need to do the backup, how exactly we need to restore that one. Those things I will simulate. Okay. All right, team. So these are the exactly the differences between the on-premises and the cloud, and especially when you go for the cloud, what exactly the cloud computing definition. So you will get the resources over the internet on demand basis with a pay as you go model. So what does it mean? For example, if you need suddenly one virtual machine to just scale it up, you can get that VM immediately from the cloud and you can just scale it up. On demand basis, you are getting that one over the internet and you will pay for that particular VM if you use. For example, you just provision one VM. You just kept that one for 1 2 hours. So 1 2 hours only you need to pay. You don't need to pay for entire day, right? That's exactly the thing pay as you go model. Okay. Right, Tim. So that is exactly the definition for the cloud computing. Just give me a moment, Tim. Okay, sorry. All right. All right, Tim. So that's exactly the thing which you should understand about the cloud. Okay. So those are all the benefits, especially you will get. And coming to the additional things where you can get this scale up and scale down is automatic, and you can maintain HA, DR, and the security definitely really well in the cloud environment. So those are all the exactly the advantages when you are moving to the cloud environment from on-premises. Okay. That's where exactly Thanos explained these things to the manager, and the final decision is at the manager. And now the manager can easily pick it up. Okay, so since the cloud is providing the additional benefits for us, I think we can deploy our application with the DP on the cloud environment. That is where exactly a discussion happened between the manager and the customer. Okay. And finally concluded, of course, we can go for the cloud environment, any cloud environment. That doesn't matter whether it is Azure, AWS, or GCP, everything is same. Same in the sense, I mean, the same process only will be there. Our concept is same on each and every environment, only the terminologies will be little different. Okay. All right. And next we are going to discuss about, so how exactly Thanos is planning to deploy. That's the next part which you need to think about. Okay, architecture is very simple, just the app is connecting to the database. But how he is trying to deploy, what exactly the technique he should use in the Azure DevOps model. That is where exactly we'll take a look now. Before going for that, just want to understand any questions so far. Yes, Shakti, both the points are right. Okay. So first and foremost thing, we need to procure the domain name. That's a common thing, right? Wherever we go, that's a common thing. Okay. Of course, because we need a custom domains. When we have the custom domains, obviously we need to go there and we need to buy the domain. And the second thing is, do we need to do the manual mapping of domain name IP Azure like do? Yes, of course we need to do that. So wherever you host it, if you are hosting in Akamai, you need to just map it. If you are hosting in AWS hosted zone, you need to map it. Okay, that's a common thing. All right. Any other question? If you guys are thinking I'm going too fast, you can message me personally also. I think you have that option for you to just send a message directly to me. Okay, you can still share with me, team. Okay, you can just tell me so that I can adjust. Okay, all right, team. Hope you don't have any questions. Okay, let's move on. Okay, all right. Interesting. Okay, we are going to discuss an interesting concept. Okay, Thanos explained really well differences between the on-premises and the cloud environment, and finally manager decided to go for the cloud environment. Now the thing is, how we need to set up a DevOps model, specifically in the Azure domain. In Azure cloud, how we need to set this one. It's a basic DevOps model. It's a basic model thing. Okay, we'll start from zero. Okay, we'll start from zero only. This is a basic one which you can think about here. For example, when you see this one team, okay, few terminologies are little different for few candidates here, but I will explain these things. Just understand. Generally, I placed a separator here. The above one is a Azure portal. Azure portal means this is the Azure portal exactly you are seeing on the screen. This is Azure portal. And I will show you how exactly you need to provision an account. I believe most of you know. Don't worry. If you don't know also, we will see how to provision the new portal account. Okay. And this is exactly I'm talking as a portal, Azure portal. And there is one more portal, which is a DevOps portal. For example, when you go for this one, right? When you go for the dev.azure.com, portal.azure.com is your Azure portal. Dev.azure.com is your DevOps portal. That's where exactly you will take a look on that. Okay. I think it is just redirected to the wrong one. Just give a moment. I'm just going for the DevOps portal where you can take a look there. All your DevOps services are sitting here. Yes, this is your DevOps portal. Okay. Now, firstly, what you should understand here is here I created an organization as this one. This is an organization. For example, your company. Your company has multiple projects. Please create those things as a project here. We will see once you provision an account. I will just take one person control. We will walk through. Okay, don't worry. And one project, you're seeing a lot of services which are Azure boards, Azure repos, Azure pipelines, Azure test plan, artifacts. These are all the services you're seeing. Even under pipelines also, you're seeing build pipelines, environment, release pipeline, library, or something like that you are still seeing. These are all the options as part of your DevOps. Okay. But when you go for the portal, here you can see all the services which are being offered by the Azure cloud and specific to the hosting or some sort of architecture defining or what are the things I'm talking about. See, you can take a quick look here. Virtual machine, these container registries, Kubernetes, MySQL, DNS zone, virtual network, public IP, all these things are available here. Okay, right. So now, once you are here, Kamala, can you please be unmute? Yeah, once you are here, now what exactly the point you need to think about here is, let's go back to this area and the above section exactly like this is the Azure portal, which is portal.azure.com. This is what exactly I'm talking about. And below section is the one exactly the DevOps section, which you just mentioned: Azure repos, Azure build pipelines, release pipelines, few set of services. Right. If you know how exactly, hello Visualpath, you there? Can you please mute Komla? Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So if you see this particular diagram, the below part is the DevOps part, which I'm talking about. And the above part is the hosting environment. See, what you should understand, let me explain. How to make a deployment to your hosting environment is the technique you should understand. This is Azure Cloud. If you go for AWS also, here, especially what are the things you are seeing here, right? Here, the names will change as Azure Repos as code commit, code build, code deploy, right? That's exactly the change here. And corresponding to the environments, you can consider those things as ECS, EKS, Lambda function, or if S3 bucket, wherever you are trying to deploy. That's a change team. But the ultimately point you should understand here is your DevOps services are being used to deploy your packaged content, your code into the hosting environments. That's the point. Any cloud environment. Point is same. Okay? Point is same. But cloud to cloud, services may vary. Services may vary. That's the only difference thing. For example, I just pick few icons for you here. You don't know, to be frank, what exactly these icons are. Maybe you might have understand this is a VM and this is a Kubernetes cluster. Maybe. And this is an app service. This is also one type of hosting environment in Azure Cloud is offering. If you don't have really proper skill set on the Kubernetes, people will go for this. If your team don't have the proper skill set, they will go for this. It's an app service. This is also doing really good. You can deploy your container here. Here also you can deploy your container, right? Here also you can deploy the same, but the orchestration is little different. Okay? And you can go for the Azure functions, and you can go for the Azure Logic app. This is Azure Logic app. So this has its own importance, especially. It's not like your regular app deployments, especially when you want to go for some event-driven architectures. Especially, we will use these kind of Azure functions and Azure Logic apps. But at the moment, you no need to focus on these two. Okay, I will simulate one project on these two. Don't worry. You no need to worry on these two, but focus on the VM, app service, and the Kubernetes clusters. Generally, your DevOps area, what are the DevOps area you're talking about? Let me just explain the process. Okay, you will understand the process now. Okay, what exactly here the DevOps model is talking about? Here, the persons who are sitting here are the developers. The developers are developing the code for your application, and when they develop the code, they will check in that code to the Azure repositories. Right, that's a common thing everyone knows. Okay, check in code to the repositories only. Today it's Azure repository. Some companies will use GitHub, some companies will use GitLab, some companies will use Bitbucket, some companies will use code commit. That doesn't matter for us. Concept is same. You no need to learn all these things. Not required. Well, one is fine. To be frank, one is fine. Now, when the developers are checking the code to the repositories, After they check in the code to the repo, I'm not talking about any kind of pull request or merge request, how exactly strategies and all. Simple basic DevOps I'm talking about. Once they check in the code to the repository, for example, actor 1 just worked on file 1, actor 2 worked on file 2, actor 3 worked on file 3. These three guys are just pushing their code to the repository, right? They're just pushing their code to the repository, and when the code being pushed to the repository, that's where merge will happen. File 1, file 2, file 3, merge will happen. Who will merge this? Your technical lead will merge. Okay, is your file 1, file 2, file 3 code is really good or not? If you think, okay, everything is really good, he will verify your files and he will merge it. Then, for example, these three people are working on three different files. Three files are merged into a single file. I'm not talking in a branch perspective. I'm just talking in a basic terminology. And what exactly we need to do? From Azure repositories, we will pull that one, and by using Azure build pipeline, we will zip it. Simple thing. For example, you have 100 files with you in your Windows machine or your Mac machine. If I ask you just package it, what you will do? You will just keep all those things in a single folder and you will zip it, right? That's a common thing, right? The same way, build pipelines also will just package all these files into a zip form. And whatever the zip being generated here, this particular zip again will be used by the release pipeline, and release pipeline will take this zip file, and release pipeline will deploy that zip into this hosting environment called app service. Once you deploy your once you deploy your code into this hosting environment hosting environment, I'm just at the moment I'm just considering hosting environment as app service. Once you deploy your code to the app service, then obviously my end user, okay, whoever the user you have, for example, I'm just considering a user. I'm just considering a user is here. My user definitely can access that particular application directly from this app service. I'm not talking about the architecture here because this is not a good approach to give the access to the public. Again, you will use load balancer. I mentioned, right? I just mentioned, you need a load balancer always. You need a load balancer always to just provide to the end user. In the same way, I will not allow this hosting environment directly to the public. I will use a load balancer in between, of course. But I'm not talking about that. But the thing is, once you deploy your application to the app service, you will ask your end user, oh, please go there and check your application. Is it deployed really well? That's all the case here. See, the basic thing what you understand in this basic DevOps model, developers are checking the code to the repository. Build pipeline is building that code. Nothing but it's a packaging that code to a format. And release pipelines are taking that format and deploying that one to a hosting environment. That's all the concept, right? That's the basic concept. I'm just going one more detailed level. Okay. Especially when build and release pipelines are being executed here. What is build pipeline task? Build pipeline task is it needs to package your stuff. You tell me one thing. If I ask you to package some 10 files or 100 files in your laptop, what you will do? You will just select the 100 files, you just right click and zip it, right? In the same way, your build pipelines are also doing the same. But you are using your medium as your platform, your medium platform as your laptop. But what exactly build pipelines will use? Build pipelines will use a underlying machine. So for build pipelines, you need a virtual machines. Why? Because to perform this activity for packaging, that's what you are using your laptop, you are packaging your photos, right? In the same way, to do for build pipelines also need a machine. That's where in cloud we'll call as virtual machine. For release pipeline also, whatever the zip being generated, again, you need to, for example, if you want to transfer file from one place to another place, you will use your laptop, right? Maybe, for example, if you want to attach to the Gmail, I think you will use your laptop, you will open the Gmail app and you will attach that. So you are using your laptop as the medium. The same way, release pipeline also needs some help from VM to to pull this one and to deploy this one here. So your build and release pipelines requires a virtual machine. Why we need virtual machine? Because the build has a specific task as packaging and release has a specific task as a releasing. To perform these two activities, you need help from the virtual machine. If you have the virtual machine, you can perform these activities on those particular VM. Right. That's about this VM exactly I'm talking about. But we are going to talk this VM as Azure DevOps Agent. Azure DevOps Agent. We'll call this one as Azure DevOps Agent. Okay. From here onwards, we'll call this one as Azure DevOps Agent. Now you may get doubt. Hey, VM is not available in this portal, right? VM is available in this portal. Correct? See, VM is available here. This is what the portal.azure.com which you are seeing on the screen. But when you go for the DevOps, this is what your DevOps area. Here you don't see any such kind of services. To be frank, you don't see anything. Then what should we do? But if your diagram is telling, hey, I need a VM here, right? I need a VM here. But how can I get a VM in this below portal? How can I get a VM? But your VM is only sitting here, right? Your VM is only sitting here, but you need this VM to be available here. This is what exactly you need to do. How we can achieve this? This particular thing is nothing but just registering a VM into ADO. I'm just calling this one as registering a VM. So meaning that registering a VM into ADO. Okay, to ADO Azure DevOps. So we need to register this VM into ADO. Then my build and release pipelines will make use of this VM. So how to register, I will show you to. But this is the exactly the plan behind. So to simulate a simple base use case here, firstly, what exactly you require here? You require a VM. A VM is required. This particular VM, exactly you need to register as a Azure DevOps agent. If you register as a Azure DevOps agent, then you can use this VM for your deployments. For your deployments, not for hosting, for deployments. Your hosting environment is app service here. This is app service is a hosting environment. This is only for deployments. So that's a basic rule which you need to keep in your mind. Any questions so far?
This
Yes, Shakti.
sorry. Dinesh, one thing that this Azure DevOps agent, that is what I need a little bit of more clarity. But what I have understood from you is that the for the packaging and for the deployment, we need to use Azure DevOps agent. And one thing that I'd like to understand a little bit more, the Azure App Service, the globe one, like to which the red color arrow is going, what exactly that is? Is that, for example, is that something like, is it a web application I'm going to create in which all my development work will be done, and once the developers they will develop something, it will go to the VM, and the pipeline will get built, and then it will get released to that web application, or what it is exactly.
No,
I don't know if I'm able to,
no
that
worries, no worries.
the right
Okay,
question or not.
no, wait, no worries. Okay, this is a hosting environment. Your understanding is right, Shakti. Okay, let me address your questions. Okay, Shakti's first question here is whatever the DevOps agent I'm talking about here, because guys, I think this is your second session. Okay, I don't think so. You will understand everything in detail in second session. Okay? But just slowly follow me. Okay, you will understand because I have the planned sequence to just take you to the architectures, okay, different set of architectures. But this is the basic thing for keep in your. So first question from Sekti is, what is this DevOps agent? And is this only specific to Azure? That's his first question. Okay. Okay. One thing I'm just clarifying here. This is just a VM. This VM I'm borrowing from Azure Cloud. This VM I can borrow from AWS Cloud also. I can keep AWS Cloud VM also here. And I can use AWS Cloud VM to deploy to AWS hosting environments easily. AWS hosting environment. So first thing is this VM can be anything. Since we are dealing Azure Cloud, we are using Azure VMs. If I'm planning to deploy an application, some Java application from Azure DevOps to AWS cloud environment, still I can. I can connect Azure DevOps. Example, I'm just giving him. I can connect Azure DevOps, especially with AWS cloud environment. For example, AWS ECS. Of course, I can connect this one. I can definitely connect this one. This is possible. When I'm doing this activity, I will use AWS VM, AWS EC2 I will use. That's very easy for me to just make a connection with AWS components. In this combination also I can. If you anyone take a record of this one, I can explain the practical part of this one. You can take a record and you can ask me going forward. I can explain this one how to do this. Okay. Yeah. So because I haven't discussed this one in my syllabus, that's why. Okay, just take a record of this one. I can show how to prove this one. Okay. But the thing is, at the moment, since we are dealing Azure Cloud, this particular VM I'm just using from Azure. That's all simple. And another question. Now, what challenge usually you guys will get? Let me explain. For example, in real time, I just talked about only one pipeline, one VM. If you have 100 application, 100 build pipelines, but you are using only one VM. Now talk about the scenario. Same VM, but you have 100 pipelines. 100 pipelines. And unfortunately, you need to deploy a 30 of the pipeline. You need to execute 30 of the pipelines to just make sure your deployment smooth. Or to just deploy an application to the app service. You need to deploy some 30 applications. How? So 30 applications will come to your VM and 30 applications cannot be executed at the same time. One agent can execute one at a time. So 30 will go in sequence. To be frank, this is not a efficient way to just deploy your application into the hosting environment. Then we'll talk about Azure DevOps agent as a container. We will just improvise our process going forward. You know what it will do? You can run multiple agents in the same VM. You can run some 30 agents. Your 30 pipelines can be executed on the 30 agent in a minute. But if it is a single agent, it will take 30 minutes. That's where we will improvise the process slowly. For now, you don't know what is a container also. Just keep this one as a VM. Okay, just a VM. Just a VM, only one agent, one pipeline. Second question for Shakti. He's just thinking about what is this one specially. This is an app service. Okay, you don't know anything about app service. You don't know anything about these services, I'm sure. But why I placed on top of this one on the second session itself? Because you will understand what services are there in Azure. That's what my goal. I don't want you to understand more on these services. What services and hosting environments are there? I'm just keeping some hosting environment for you examples here. One is app service. What it will do? It's like a VM only. It's like a VM only. If you deploy an application into the VM and you're accessing that one from outside, same like app service also has infrastructure. You will deploy your application to the app service and you will access from outside. Like a web application, like a Spring Boot application, like a Spring Boot with the database, everything you can deploy React or Angular, anything you can Python, anything you can deploy into this app service. To be to just make you more clear, I'm just going to the cloud environment. I'll just quickly show you what is app service. Okay. When you go for the app service, just go there and create. See, it is just telling some techniques for you. Hey, you need a web application, or you need a static web application, or you need a web app from database, or you need a WordPress app service. Which combination you need? You just take one particular web app just taking one web app. See, it will just ask you few questions. What is your name of what is that the name of your web application? Okay, what exactly the name? For example, I told you already, this is nothing but a domain. For example, I'm just keeping T and T Techies guide. For example, I'm just giving this one. See, your domain name is https colon tnt techies guide azure website.net is your domain. That's all. Your domain is ready. Your domain is ready. It's a ready-made. But point is whether you really like it to keep azure website.net at the end. Are you really like it? Generally, if a customer is thinking about this domain, definitely he will not encourage this because he's promoting Azure. He's not promoting his brand. Instead of his brand, this one will be there in the picture for the customer who is hosting in Azure. It's promoting this one, right? But always the customer will try to provide and try to promote his domain fully, like tnttechiesguide.com, tnttechiesguide.link, tnttechiesguide.in, or something like that. That one we will see going forward how to customize your domains. This is exactly the thing. Here you want to deploy your code, entire your application as a code. You want to deploy your application as a Docker container, or you want to deploy your application as a static website. And what is the technology you are using? Are you using .NET? Are you using Java? Are you using Node? Are you using PHP? Are you using Python? And what exactly the operating system you are expecting? Is a Linux behind or Windows behind? Which region you are trying to submit this? I mean, wherever your customer base is there, you will prefer that. Just an example I'm just giving to be more clear here. Okay. All right. I will detail on this one because we have a projects on it. Okay? We have a ready-made projects which I already prepared some projects. We can deal that one going for a lot of explanation is there. Don't worry. So now that's exactly the thing I think to just address our these questions. Okay. All right. So can we deploy Java application in Azure? Of course, any application. I just showed, right? I just showed the technologies. What are the technologies you are seeing here? All these technologies comfortably you can deploy. That's specific to the version, platform version. That's absolutely possible. And him is asking how to solve Git checkout issues if repo is of huge size. Okay, him. This is, I think, this part we are not discussing at this moment, but to just address you. So, especially, I will talk about this one during our branching strategy. We have a branching strategy technique which we need to discuss in detail. I believe there I will talk about that. This is what our branching strategy. Here I will talk about those things or more into that here. Okay, we can discuss in detail about that. Okay, how exactly, what are the branches available? This kind of knowledge is required for a DevOps engineer, but not right now. Okay, it will be deviated. All right. Any other question at this moment, team first? Any other question at this moment?
Yeah, hi Dinesh, this is Mukul. I have one question regarding, let's say, we are using certain resources in the portal side of the Azure. So would you also deal with Terraform on different cloud platforms to deploy these resources?
Yeah, I understand your question completely, Mukul. At the moment, Terraform, Azure Cloud, Ansible, Azure Cloud is the one which I planned, but still I'm interested to do for other cloud also. Okay, but why the program? I think few candidates only joined for Azure Cloud here. Okay, that is why I think I'm just covering Terraform and Ansible with respect to Azure Cloud. But I can show you one simple provisioning, especially with other clouds, if you are okay. That thing I can show you. Okay, how to interact and how to provision a resource, especially in other clouds. But in Azure Cloud, I will show you in depth by placing an architecture. Okay.
Yeah, because it would be better, or I think if you can deploy all the resources on three clouds using Terraform itself centrally, if
Yeah,
that
I
is
understand.
possible, that would be a good skill to understand. Yeah.
Definitely, I believe I got your point completely. But the same thing I'm going to do by using Argo CD in this particular program. I plan using Argo CD, you are going to deploy to all the clouds. But Terraform, I just stick to the Azure for now. Okay. But if really time permits for me, definitely I will simulate the same in Azure other clouds as well because the code will be different, right? Cannot be the same code. Okay.
Yep.
Code will be different. Yeah.
Okay, just one more request, Dinesh. I am working in my office on TerraSpace and Helm. So if I need any support or guidance around that, would you be able to help for that as well?
Yeah, sure, Mukul. I think I have. I think you can connect with me offline. I think when they are, I think they will form the WhatsApp group soon. I think you can see my number. You can connect with me. I have my own team. I think my team will assist you. Okay. Don't
Okay, thank you.
worry. Yeah, no worries. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Any other question here?
Dinesh,
Okay. Yeah. No,
this is
sorry.
Vishwajit. One question
Yes.
here.
Uh,
So like Azure Basic DevOps Model, whatever the model you have to create it in Azure, I want the same configuration and everything I need to want to AWS and GCP as well as for this comparison purpose. So that we need to more familiar with that.
agree, Bashir. I understand your point.
Hmm.
But if I switch to AWS and GCP at this moment, I'll tell what will happen. People will be confused. Okay. Let's understand one cloud first. Okay. Then
Okay.
when at the end of our sessions, then I will make a comparison. Okay. Because now it may not be the right approach. Maybe you know some sort of basics and other clouds, but others really don't know because they themselves feel this terminology itself little new, right, for them. Yeah, whatever I placed. Okay. Let's not deep dive into too much terminology at this moment. Definitely I will compare. Okay. I'm interested in comparison also. Okay. Don't worry.
If everything is comparison means I need to figure it out for good idea for all the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
cloud.
See, that's the purpose of our program, basically. Okay? That's why I mentioned it's a multi-cloud DevSecOps. Okay, I'll simulate the same thing. See, that's why same project I will simulate in other clouds also. Okay, then you will understand. Okay, how we need to use in other clouds. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one more thing is that for this subscription, it will valid for 1 month or 3 months.
Yeah, 30 days. 30 days.
30 days only. After 30 days, if I want to continue, then I need to pay it, right?
Yeah, yeah. You need to pay and you need to use your any other friend's card. Otherwise, you may need to pay. Usually, I'll also pay. I'll show you the techniques how to optimize your cost. Okay. You maybe it may come around some $30 per month or something like that. It will, okay, because we need to practice Kubernetes clusters and all. That's why. Okay, we need to simulate our end-to-end architecture. So some charge will be there. So when we are doing that, yeah,
Okay. Because what happens is in the office environment, we can't practice it and we can't create new VM to check this. But if I create it our own, it will be good for me and
yeah,
already
agree.
practice.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. I think some playgrounds are also there in the market where you can see some. You can have some Azure playground from Code Cloud also. They are selling playground for you just to play with Azure. I think it will be some cheaper rate. Okay, you guys can explore that. Okay, you no need to
Okay.
pay for the cloud level. I think it will be some cheaper rate. Yeah, you can take a look on.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Dinesh.
Okay, no worries. Okay, no worries. Yeah. All right, guys. Okay, fine. So hope you understand the basic DevOps model. I'll give a recap on this one tomorrow again one more time. Don't worry. And someone please take a note of this one. Okay, we'll discuss this one as part of our program. Okay. All right. So fine. I believe let's close for today and see you all tomorrow. And we'll deep dive into the further concept as part of this process. Okay. Just allow me for first 4 5 days. I will try to teach you the basics. Okay. Some basics specific to the terminologies and the DevOps and specific to Azure Cloud. Okay. Then we'll deep dive into the concept more and more. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. See you all tomorrow. Bye bye.